The words nearly escaped my lips before I stopped them. I was ready to walk away, ready to dismiss the strangest proposal I had ever heard, until she looked at me with trembling eyes and whispered a reason so heartbreaking that it changed everything I thought I knew about love, sacrifice, and what it truly means to save another human being. Sometimes life does not ask us to follow our hearts. Sometimes it asks us to carry someone else's pain for a little while, even when we are already carrying our own. Before we begin this emotional journey, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes in kindness, and subscribe to Echoes of Hope if you believe that second chances can appear when we least expect them. At 34 years old, Adrian Mercer had stopped expecting miracles. The bright afternoon sun streamed through the large windows of the small accounting office where he worked, but even daylight felt heavy these days. Life had become a routine of overdue bills, quiet dinners alone, and memories that refused to fade. 3 years earlier, he had lost his mother after a long illness, and 6 months after that, the woman he thought he would marry had decided she no longer wanted a future filled with struggle. She packed her things, left behind a note, and disappeared from his life without looking back. Since then, Adrian had learned how to survive disappointment. He rented a modest apartment, drove an aging sedan that groaned every morning, and spent most weekends helping elderly neighbors with groceries or repairs. He never complained because complaining changed nothing. Yet inside, there was a loneliness so profound that even crowded places felt empty. One sunny Tuesday afternoon, Adrian visited a nearby café during his lunch break. It was a cozy place lined with hanging plants and warm wooden furniture. People laughed softly around him, couples shared desserts, and students worked on laptops. It was ordinary, peaceful, and predictable until a woman approached his table carrying a cup of tea. Her name was Seraphina Vale. She appeared to be around 30 years old, dressed elegantly but simply, with tired eyes that hinted at sleepless nights. There was grace in the way she moved, yet sadness followed her like a shadow. She asked if she could sit down for a moment because she recognized him from the community center where he volunteered every Saturday. Adrian agreed politely, assuming she wanted information about volunteer programs or donations. Instead, she said something that made him nearly choke on his coffee. She wanted him to marry her. For 6 months. Nothing about the situation made sense. Adrian stared at her, expecting laughter, expecting someone to jump out and reveal a hidden camera. But Seraphina remained serious. She explained that she was not asking for romance, affection, or promises of forever. She was asking for 6 months of companionship, 6 months of appearing as husband and wife in front of her family, 6 months of helping her fulfill one final wish. Adrian immediately refused. He had spent years rebuilding his life after heartbreak. The idea of entering a temporary marriage with a stranger sounded absurd. He told her kindly but firmly that he was not interested in pretending to love someone. Then Seraphina shared her reason. Her grandmother, Helena Vale, had raised her since childhood. Helena had sacrificed everything after Seraphina's parents died in a car accident. She worked multiple jobs, sold family heirlooms, and devoted her entire life to ensuring Seraphina would never feel abandoned. Now Helena was terminally ill. Doctors believed she had only a few months left. For years, Helena dreamed of seeing her granddaughter happily married before she passed away. It was a dream she spoke about constantly, a dream that gave her strength during treatments and hospital visits. Seraphina had tried dating. She had tried introductions arranged by relatives. She had even considered remaining silent about her grandmother's wish. But every day Helena grew weaker. Every day time slipped away. Seraphina admitted she could not bear watching the woman who saved her life leave this world with an unfulfilled dream. She promised Adrian there would be legal agreements, complete honesty, and an end to the arrangement after 6 months. She simply wanted to give her grandmother peace. Adrian sat quietly. He looked outside at the bright afternoon sky. People walked by carrying shopping bags, children laughed near a fountain, and life continued as if nothing extraordinary was happening. Yet inside him, something stirred. He remembered his own mother. He remembered sitting beside her hospital bed while she apologized for leaving him alone. He remembered wishing he could have given her one more reason to smile before she died. Suddenly, Seraphina's request no longer felt ridiculous. It felt human. Still, fear remained. What if people judged him? What if emotions became complicated? What if pretending created wounds neither of them could heal? Days passed before Adrian gave an answer. During those days, he could not stop thinking about Helena. He imagined an elderly woman spending her final months worrying about her granddaughter instead of finding peace. Eventually, he called Seraphina. He agreed. Not because he believed in fairy tales. Not because he expected love. But because he believed kindness sometimes required courage. The wedding was simple. It took place on a beautiful sunny morning in a small garden behind Helena's home. Birds sang from nearby trees, flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, and soft sunlight illuminated smiling faces. Helena cried throughout the ceremony. She held Adrian's hands tightly afterward and thanked him for making her happiest wish come true. The sincerity in her voice nearly broke his heart. For the first time in years, Adrian felt he had done something meaningful. Life inside the Vale household was unexpectedly warm. Helena told stories from her youth. She taught Adrian recipes that had been passed down through generations. She laughed often, especially when Seraphina pretended to be annoyed by her grandmother's endless advice about married life. Gradually, Adrian realized Seraphina was not the distant woman he first imagined. She loved reading novels during quiet afternoons. She painted landscapes in a small studio near the back garden. She volunteered at animal shelters. She always made tea for everyone before making one for herself. Beneath her composed exterior lived a person carrying tremendous grief and responsibility. And beneath Adrian's guarded heart lived someone who desperately missed belonging somewhere. Weeks turned into months. The arrangement became easier. They attended family gatherings together. They visited Helena during treatments. They spent evenings watching old movies while Helena dozed peacefully nearby. Sometimes they laughed so hard tears rolled down their cheeks. Other times silence filled the room, but it was a comfortable silence. One afternoon, Adrian discovered Seraphina crying alone in the garden. Helena's condition had worsened. Doctors estimated only weeks remained. Seraphina confessed she felt guilty. She worried that she had manipulated Adrian. She feared he would resent her after everything ended. Adrian surprised himself with his response. He told her she had given him something precious. Purpose. For years he had drifted through life feeling invisible. Now he woke up each morning knowing someone depended on him. Knowing his presence mattered. Knowing he had become part of a family again. For the first time since losing his mother, Adrian no longer felt entirely alone. As summer approached, Helena requested one final family picnic. They chose a sunny park overlooking a lake. Children played nearby. Couples walked hand in hand. Gentle breezes carried the scent of fresh grass and blooming flowers. Helena sat beneath a tree wrapped in a light blanket. She looked peaceful. Content. She held Adrian's hand with one frail hand and Seraphina's with the other. She smiled and said she could leave this world without regret because she had witnessed love. Perhaps she knew more than either of them realized. Because somewhere along the journey, pretending had become impossible. Adrian noticed the way his heart raced when Seraphina smiled. He noticed how deeply he cared about her happiness. He noticed that home was no longer an apartment filled with silence. Home had become shared breakfasts, garden conversations, and afternoons spent caring for an elderly woman who treated him like family. Then came the day everyone feared. Helena passed away peacefully in her sleep. Sunlight filtered through her bedroom curtains that morning. Birds chirped outside. And despite the overwhelming sadness, there was also tranquility. Helena left this world believing her granddaughter was loved. Believing she would never face life alone. The funeral brought many people together. Stories were shared. Tears were shed. Lives touched by Helena's kindness became visible in ways Adrian never expected. For weeks afterward, grief settled heavily over the house. The 6-month agreement was nearing its end. Papers sat untouched inside a drawer. Neither Adrian nor Seraphina mentioned them. Until one bright afternoon, exactly 6 months after their wedding, Seraphina invited Adrian to the garden where they had exchanged vows. The flowers were blooming again. Sunlight danced across the grass. Everything looked almost identical. Yet everything had changed. Seraphina thanked him. She thanked him for honoring Helena's dream. for standing beside her during the hardest season of her life, for showing compassion without expecting anything in return. Then she said she was ready to let him go, because promises had been fulfilled. Obligations had ended. He was free. Adrian looked around. He remembered Helena's laughter. He remembered family dinners. He remembered feeling alive again. And suddenly, the thought of leaving felt unbearable. He realized he no longer stayed because of a promise. He stayed because he loved the life they had built together. More importantly, he loved Seraphina. Not the woman who proposed a temporary marriage in a café, but the woman who sacrificed her own comfort to ease her grandmother's final days. The woman who carried pain quietly. The woman who taught him that healing often begins when we stop protecting ourselves from being vulnerable. Adrian admitted the truth. He did not want 6 months. He wanted ordinary mornings, shared holidays, future memories. He wanted to stay forever. Seraphina's eyes filled with tears. For the first time since they met, her smile was completely free of sadness. Sometimes love does not arrive dramatically. Sometimes it begins as an act of kindness. Sometimes it grows slowly inside hospital rooms, family kitchens, and gardens filled with sunlight. Sometimes the people who save us are the ones we never intended to meet. Years later, Adrian would often think back to that afternoon in the café. The moment he almost said no. The moment he nearly walked away. And he would realize that the greatest blessings often come disguised as impossible choices. Before we end, if this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Echoes of Hope so more people can discover stories that remind us humanity still exists. Special request, comment below with "Kindness changes lives" if you believe even a small act of compassion can transform someone's future. Adrian once believed life had taken everything from him. But destiny had simply been preparing him for a different kind of love, one built not on perfection, but on empathy, sacrifice, and second chances. And perhaps that is the most beautiful truth of all, that sometimes, when we open our hearts to help someone else heal, we unknowingly heal ourselves along the way.